morning. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Williams, and I am a faculty member in the Communication Studies Department, and I am also our Director of Undergraduate Studies. And typically during the spring semester, we have an event where we bring together first-generation students and first-generation alumni and celebrate the accomplishments of our students. And unfortunately, in the current moment, that is not possible. So instead of doing that, we have decided to host a series of conversations between our first generation students and our first generation alumni. And today is our first conversation. So we have Suchil Ramirez joining us and Josette Valdez. Suchil just graduated, and Josette is an alumni who is a first generation student herself. And so today they're going to have a conversation. Suchil has put together some different questions for Josette, and we'll kind of take it from there. I do want to get us started with one question to kind of break the ice, and that is, as I mentioned, normally we'd be doing something different, but in the current moment, the world seems a little upside down. So I want to invite each of you to talk about what has been a significant communication challenge that you have faced in light of how we are working and living during this time of the coronavirus. And Gisette, I'll let you start if you'd like, and then Suchil, if you want to jump in after that.
Sure. Well, it's nice to virtually see everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. Pretty exciting to do this. So a significant communication challenge that I'm experiencing during or in light of the world in which we live today is while video communication has been great for my team of employees, I think they're getting burnout of video communication. And so trying to manage through the improved communication opportunities so that they don't feel like they always have to be on camera or they always have to be on, and manage that with what would have been in-office communication. And so learning to and allowing people to have the boundaries around video communication is a new way to think for me.
Yeah, I think for me it's just been like that comprehension part of like virtually communicating. So like you don't get none of those like nonverbals that you do in person. So like if I'm sending a message to, like I would be sending a message to my supervisor, and then she would send me a lot of messages back because, you know, she didn't have my tone, or like she couldn't see my face, where I was like, oh yeah, it was just a random question that I had, and she thought it was like a lot more serious. So those are things that I've been kind of noticing with like virtual communication.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Suchil, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know that you had prepared some different questions when you had heard about this opportunity. So I'm going to let you two hopefully engage in what will become more of kind of a natural conversation through what you both pointed out can be a difficult or more challenging medium. So
yeah, definitely.
Take it away.
Yeah, so nice to virtually meet you. I guess just to like start off, I just kind of wanted to like hear like more of like what was your experience as a first gen student at CSU, and more of like your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm from Denver. I was born and raised. I went to Denver public schools. So my dad growing up, you know, college was never really an option. It was, you will go to college. That's the expectation I have of you. You will do it. It's a very unique thing for me because my dad was also going to school while I was growing up and happened to finish his college degree while I was in college. And so it was kind of fun to watch him go through it. But I was the first in my extended family or family really anywhere to go away to school to experience that big type of college environment. So I didn't know what to expect when I got there, and just naturally being who I was more introverted, and trying to figure out who I was and find a voice and amongst thousands of students was difficult my first year. I quickly learned and started to enjoy the environment that CSU provided, and the things I learned there. And I always say I went into CSU as this really quiet, timid, young girl, and I left with coming out as somebody who had a voice and realized it was okay to express her voice and kind of own who I was. And I didn't know that's what was going to happen when I went away to college. And while it was great to watch my dad go through this process in a different way, he was a grown man with grown kids almost. And so seeing and going away to school was far different than what I had watched at home.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I've heard a lot of like that. Like I had a friend who her mom was like getting her master's while she was like finishing her bachelor's, and it's always like really different. So
yeah, I mean, and when
sorry, you cut off. Go ahead.
No, even so, when I went back for my master's degree, it became sort of a fun little thing. Is I was able to get my master's degree before my dad, and he never really finished his, and so to this day, it's kind of a joke of I'm officially the smartest one in the family, and you know, I think even more so just not being first generation, but just being able to make him and my family proud and set the stage. So my niece is, even though she's not going to CSU, which breaks my heart, you know, you get to set something for your family that you are the first to do something, and you get to create a new tradition and a new expectation, and all of those things that you don't think about when you probably went to school. Like you were doing this for you a little bit, but the generations to come from your accomplishments you should be really proud of, because you're changing the makeup of your family, whether you know it or not. And I didn't know that at the time, and now I look back, she's graduated from high school this week, and she's going to college, and now it will continue to be part of our family. College is an expectation and something that's very attainable, and I think that's the most exciting part is, and that's for you now. Like, you will forever change the course of your family, and what comes after you is because of what you did, and so you should be really proud.
No, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, yeah, it's definitely like a lot of like the congratulations I've gotten from my siblings, because I'm the youngest of 5, and they're like you're such an example for for my children and stuff like that. And even like my oldest nephew, he's 14, and so he's already like thinking of like he's going into high school next year, so we're like thinking, okay, so like what are you gonna do? And they're just already thinking like further and higher than I ever did.
That.
Yeah, so it's really awesome to see them just be at a way different place than where I was at their age, and it's like super incredible.
Yeah, and so you should be proud, because you're part of that change. You're part of changing the course of your family's history, and preparing them for something bigger, broader, and bigger in this world. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations to you too. That's awesome to like, I can't wait to see them go off to college. I'm gonna be like that random aunt right there. They call me Tia, and they'll be like, Tia, Tia, Tia. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, that's super exciting. I look forward to that for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm also like kind of wondering, so you got your degree in communications, right? And what was kind of that journey for you, like to decide on that degree?
Yeah, I went into college having no idea what I was going to do. I knew I was going. I really thought I was going to be a lawyer when I graduated. And the reality is I'm just not, math is not my strength. It just isn't. I own it. I take responsibility for it. I work on it every day, but it just isn't. And I was a little bit of a lost soul when I went into college. I didn't know what I was going to do. I wasn't into business. I wasn't into history. I didn't want to be a teacher. And I had taken a couple classes my freshman year in communications, and they challenged me who I was. For sure, hands down, the hardest thing I've ever done is take a speech class. And then taking speech classes, right? I was content sitting in the back of the room, just ignore me. I'll turn in my work, and I liked the way it felt to get up and speak and hear my voice and have an opinion. And then I started taking classes on interpersonal and intercultural communication. And then I met Dr. Gill, and my life just sort of came together. And I really loved the high school I went to. Are you from Denver?
Yeah, that was actually something I forgot to mention. I went to DPS also. I'm from Denver.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went, what high school?
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early College in Green Valley Ranch. Yeah.
Okay. So I went to TJ.
Okay.
And TJ had this communications program. And as part of it, you had, you could do like news anchor, or you could be behind the scenes. And I loved the behind the scenes. I loved making the camera, writing the scripts, and doing all of that. And so I really thought I was going to go into news production and do public affairs, some of that type of work. And as I dug into the communications department, I learned it really wasn't for me. I still kind of liked the public affairs, public relations type of work, but I really loved the communication side, the being able to read people's body language, knowing when to just stop and pause for silence. And that's all things that I learned through my communications degree. And we laugh now on my calls with my teams because I'm okay with silence. I'll just sit and wait. And those are things that I learned through my degree. And so it just kind of fell into place. I didn't go in thinking I would be this great communications person. And I never went into college thinking anybody would know who I was or what I did when I left. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing that. So kind of after graduation, what kind of I guess your career journey, what has that kind of been like for you as a first gen student, or just anything really?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2001. So I graduated in June, and then 9/11 happened that following September. So as I was sort of looking for jobs and trying to figure out what to do, the economy changed, the world changed, and the availability of jobs was significantly different. I was going to, and I had some great interviews for public affairs, marketing. And I remember I did this interview with the House of Blues, and it was 4-step process, and I was all the way to the end. And the hiring manager called and said, "You're amazing, you're great, but we have somebody with 15 years experience who's willing to come do this job for half of what we would normally have to pay them. And all of the other candidates have 10, 15 years experience." And it was just the economy. And so I took an internship doing public affairs and made, 3 cents an hour after all the work I did. But with a local dance company, and I did press releases and marketing materials for them, and I liked it. It was fun. But after a while, I realized it wasn't the work I wanted to do. I was also volunteering. So that was my dad's big thing, is if you're not going to work, you need to volunteer. And so I picked up volunteering with the Red Cross, and I used to do their communications work. I would write their press releases, talk on camera for them, work with the media, news reporters, that type of thing. And so I was kind of doing that. I didn't know what I was going to do. Decided to go back to graduate school while I figured it out, and finished graduate school in a degree with Masters of Public Administration, working in the government, the nonprofit side, and sort of fell into my career with a nonprofit. If you would have asked me 20 years ago, if I was going to work in a nonprofit, I would have told you absolutely not. Like, no, I'm going to be this lawyer. No, I'm going to be this great PR person. And I couldn't be more blessed with where I ended up and how things sort of ended. And I was volunteering with the Red Cross. I got my degree. I was working in disaster management, sort of learning about it and learning about what that meant from a communications perspective. And the Red Cross said, we have this job that's open. My dad is like, you're taking the job because you don't have one. And now you have a master's degree. You're not going to sit at home and do nothing. And so I started as an admin assistant with the Red Cross. And I was making, I don't know, nothing, barely enough to live. But it was a job. And that was like in 15, 16 years ago. And I've spent my entire career with the Red Cross, moving up through the organization and learning new skills. And the one thing I will say about my communications degree is if you can communicate and you can lead people, you can do anything. Yeah. And, you see really bad communicators and really people who aren't skilled at interpersonal and intercultural communication, but they have all of the technical skills. Those aren't the people I hire. I hire the people who can communicate and read a room and understand what's happening even when nothing's being said. And so that's kind of how I ended up where I did. And fortunate that the Red Cross invested in me. So I started as an admin assistant and was promoted to a programs director. And then, believe it or not, my job was to do training. So I would get up, right? The girl who didn't even want to get up in front of a small class and give a speech that she wrote would get up and train hundreds of volunteers at Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Harvey or the San Diego wildfires. And I was doing disaster trainings on exponential levels. And I was training every disaster person who came in through the Colorado office. And then moved on from that and became the person who would sit down across from a general in the military and negotiate policy and how we were going to interact with the military. And all of that was afforded to me through the Red Cross, a career I never would have picked for myself, but sort of picked me. And then a couple years ago, 4 years ago, I came on as the chief operating officer, and my job was to do everything behind the scenes, which I loved, right? Like I loved being behind the scenes and I loved helping things get done that nobody knew was happening. And then 2 years ago, I switched over to probably the most external facing position we have in the organization, which is our chief development officer. My job is to work with people and lead people who work with people to get money in the door for our organization. And I constantly sit in front of major donors, people who write $100,000 checks or corporations who are giving $500,000 and talk about the work we did. And I know I would never be able to do that had I not sat in the beginning speech class and found my voice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love hearing that because I feel like I had the similar experience. Like I was like terrified of public speaking. Like I was like, I am not doing that. Like in high school, like any and everything that I could do to get out of publicly speaking or anything, like I would do it. Like I would get out of it. And so I always laugh because I'm like, how'd I end up in communications? Like I was very much not for the public speaking. So yeah. Like I love hearing you talk about it. Just like it's kind of like what you were saying, like you never know, like you would have never thought like a few years back that you'd be like doing what you are now, and like that's incredible.
Yeah, I think as you start to figure out your career path is my biggest piece of advice is don't ever say no to something that seems like it doesn't make sense. One of my favorite mentors, and he talks about how he was offered a job in HR and he was like, no way in the world do I ever want to be in HR. Like, it's not going to happen. And they were like, well, this is the job. Like, we want you take this job or you don't have a job, kind of a thing. And so he did it. And he said he will never turn down a random assignment again, because there's so much to learn in the things you don't want to do or the things you don't think you're good at. And you will find so much more of who you are in your leadership style, in just your self identity, in the things you'll start to see you can do anything. Like, you have the skill set, trust yourself and do it. It's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to feel weird and you're not going to like it. And then all of a sudden you're knocking it out of the park. That would be a piece of advice for you, is even if you're like, I don't ever want to do that, maybe think about it like a little bit more and just say, what's it going to hurt?
Yeah, definitely. I like that. That's a good way, like, to think of, especially like now with everything that's going on, like, why not, just do it. Yeah.
Do it.
Let's do it. I like that. Thank you. I guess I had another, just, I don't know. I like funny questions or funny stories. Is there anything like from, I don't know, whether from like first gen experience, like even in your career, or like when you were in grad school or your undergrad, that, I don't know, like a memorable, funny story that you ever think about, or that makes you laugh?
So I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's funny necessarily, but it's something I recall all the time, and I laugh about it now. But so it was really a work learning experience for me, and it was a moment where I was like, yep, this is me. I was in my previous position when I was working for our national headquarters office, and I was probably in my late 20s at that point in time. And my job was to go around and negotiate Red Cross policy with military installations. So I would go to like a Buckley Air Force Base, and I would sit down with the commander of that installation. And my job was to either negotiate getting Red Cross staff on there, or how we were going to engage with the airmen, what that looked like from a relationship standpoint. And it was really then to just build relationships. And so I used to do that for the entire West Coast. So I had about 9-10 states. And then I did like California, Oregon, and some of those states. And I was in Washington, in Seattle, Seattle, working with the military installation there. And the commander walks into the room, and at that point in time, I had 3 employees who were with me, all men, and we walked into the room, and everybody introduces themselves, and they were standing next to me and a little bit not behind me, but just kind of like off to my shoulder, and the commanders in the room all start talking to the men in the room, and they all keep doing this, like looking over at me, like, and nobody's really addressed me in the room at all. I mean, it was, hi, nice to meet you. And then they started talking to the men who were virtually standing behind me. But, and so finally one of them goes, sir, we're just here to take notes. She's actually the decision maker, and she's the one who's here to present, and will be the deciding factor. And everybody in the room kind of, you could feel it. And they just kind of went, oh. And they looked at me, and I was young and then a woman. And it felt good to have this 3-star general apologizing to me for how he treated me as a woman and as a young woman. And I just enjoy, like, it reminds me that I'm smart and I'm intelligent and I'm powerful. And just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I'm not the most seasoned person in that room or the most educated person in that room. And the guys who worked for me, they were so apologetic. I'm like, guys, it's not a big deal. And they go, we've never actually experienced what it felt like to have this weird, awkward, because I never said anything, and I wasn't going to correct a general. I'm not that person. And so it's funny and it's a lesson learned, but for me, it's just a reminder of how far I've come and how far women have come and how we own the space in which we can do, and we can do anything. So I just think about it sometimes when I'm walking in to go meet with a Fortune 500 CEO, and I'm like, yeah, he's nothing compared to a 3-star general or a 4-star general. And I deserve to be here. I've earned the right to be here. So those are the things I think about fairly often. And sometimes I laugh because it's like, well, don't underestimate us.
Yeah. That's super awesome. Probably in the moment you were like a very different experience as to where now you laugh about it.
Yeah. In the moment I was like, okay, like, and I wasn't going to correct anything, and I was going to let my team, the gentleman with me, kind of make a decision. We had briefed about it. He could have done it and it would have been fine. And I also really appreciated that he stopped and said, sir, I'm not the one you should be talking to. She's the decision maker. She's the boss. And this gentleman, he still works for the Red Cross, and we still keep in contact today. And we traveled the whole West Coast, and he has 2 young daughters, and he tells the story to his daughters, and I know his family, and he's like, it was just a reminder for me of how he needed to empower his daughters. And we would go out to dinner because we'd be on business trips, and immediately the waiter would hand him the bill, and he would say, she's the boss, she's paying. And so I love that he learned something about how to empower his children from seeing what it was like. So, but you're right. At the time I was like, this is baloney. Like, what is this? But now I laugh about it all the time.
Yeah. A lot to learn from that too. It's still so memorable. So there was a lot you learned from it and probably still do.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I don't know if we have time for another question.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, this has been a fascinating conversation to sit and listen to, and really fun. I found myself tearing up at a few points. So thank you. As a fellow first generation student, I could relate to a lot of the things that you were saying. But I'm wondering if Josette has any questions for Suchil.
I do. So I know you're from Denver. Why CSU?
Yeah. So originally I was my senior year, I guess, I was like set on going out of state. I was going to go to Grand Canyon University in Arizona. And there was a lot of stuff happening in with my family at the time. And so I took a step back, and I was like, had a conversation with my mom. I was like, I'll just do community college. Everything changed. Life got really crazy. My dad passed away at that time. So I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so, but the one thing that was clear is like, I have to go to school. So I just kind of made a list, and I was like, of all the schools in state, because I was like, I have to leave home. I need to leave home. I have to go further away. And so I just made a list of all like the colleges, universities in the state of Colorado. And I was like, you know what? I had some friends that were at CSU, and I was like, I like it here. I'm just going to go here. And so that's how I ended up at CSU. And I started spring of 2016 at CSU.
Good for you. I have to laugh because, so I was like you, I'm like, I'm leaving the state of Colorado. I'm getting out of here. And Arizona, University of Arizona was my first choice of schools. And I was like, I'm gone. I'm going away. And things happen in life. And my dad said, you can't, we're not going to be able to send you out of state. And then the only other option for me was CSU, and best decision I ever made. And my dad's big thing is everything happens for a reason, and everything does happen for a reason in life. And I can't imagine what my life would be had I left and gone somewhere else. But it's funny how life sort of works out.
Yeah, No, I completely agree. Like I talk to my family and like my friends all the time, and they're like, and we're like, what if I would have gone out of state or just somewhere else? And they're like, well, that's weird, and you wouldn't have met us. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, everything happens for a reason, and everything really works out. I mean, I wouldn't trade my time at CSU for anything, I think.
Yeah, same here. What is it for you? What was it like being a first generation student?
Um, it was unique for sure. I'm like the youngest of five, so um, I think at first I didn't realize. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the first to go in my family to go to school. Yeah, cool. But then as I like kept going semester by semester and like just seeing how, you know, my family was super supportive, but also they just had no idea what I was doing. So it was challenging for sure, but um it's all like it's been really amazing just to see like their love and support for it. Like they have no idea what I do or why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, but they're super supportive and just super excited for me. So it's been really awesome. Like obviously really challenging, but also like really amazing just from to be the first in my family to be able to do that.
That's great. And what are you doing now?
So I just graduated in May, so that's awesome. um,
Yeah.
I've been kind of just job searching. I mean, I also got my degree in social work, so social work and communication studies. Yeah.
Wow.
So, so I really like talking to people, I like working with people, kind of like that interpersonal community outreach, all of those things. So, for the next 10 weeks, I'll be interning with Colorado Legal Services with their Migrant Farm Workers Division. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm super excited. That's what I'm kind of doing for the next 10 weeks. And yeah, after that, I guess just trying to find a more long-term job, I guess, in the meantime. I know I want to go to grad school eventually, so yeah.
Yeah. Um, are you doing what you thought you would do when you went into college?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I feel like midway in my college career, I was like, you know, I just need to not have any expectations. So like have expectations, have my dreams, have my goals, but also not like have this idea of I'm going to be working at this organization in downtown Denver and like doing this kind of work. So yeah, I don't think so. I probably was thinking I'd be probably right into grad school for social work specifically, but um, I found two things that I really liked, and so I'm just trying to find a way to like combine them both.
For you.
Yeah, so I don't
That's
know.
the way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've got time. You've got 10 weeks to learn something and find something new. And sounds like you want to stay in Denver, and it's a great place to be.
yeah, it really is. I mean, I feel after being in Fort Collins for so long, I'm like, I love you, Fort Collins, I really do, but also I really like the city. So
I hear you.
yeah.
If you could go back and tell yourself one thing going into college that you've learned coming out, right? You're 4 years, you're done. If you could tell your younger self, hey, when you go to college or CSU or what would you tell yourself?
Um, what would I tell myself? That's a good question. I think I'd just be like, just do anything and everything. I think a lot of times I hesitate, right? And I'd be like, "Ugh, like I wish I would have done that or this. And um, I know I was able to do a lot of things, and I think sometimes it was just probably fear, the like where I would limit myself, like, oh, I can't do that. So I guess maybe just like I would tell myself like you got this, don't be fearful, like just go for it type of thing. Um yeah, I think that's around there. Yeah, a lot to
Yeah,
reflect on definitely.
hindsight's 2020, and the things you learn after the fact. You're like, oh, if I would have known that when I was 18, if I would have known how important understanding and reading a textbook was, I would have, I maybe would have done that more. So yeah, good for you.
I mean, definitely, I want to hear your perspective on that question. That was a good question.
Yeah, I think if I could tell myself 18 going into college, hey, if you do nothing else, it would get involved. I was very content on doing schoolwork. I joined a sorority, which was beyond helpful for me in engaging with people. But I think I would have gotten more involved in the university, maybe more involved in something on campus. I think I would have told myself to maybe study a little bit more. I took for granted the things that came easy to me and maybe didn't push myself hard enough. I would also tell myself to just have fun. I was a very serious person. You know, I had never got a B until I went to college, and I got a C, and then I got a D my freshman year, and I thought the world was coming to an end. And I would say, it's okay. I would tell myself, you will be okay in the future. It is not the end of the world, and just apply yourself. And I think I didn't know how hard college was going to be academically. High school was very easy for me. And so I wasn't prepared for the academic stimulation that college brought me. I didn't know how to take notes or study or any of that. And so I would tell myself, it'll be okay. Much like you, is I'll be okay. Don't have these breakdowns because you got to be, and enjoy time.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I always, yeah, a lot of reflecting, and I think back to like the breakdowns, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, yeah. I was like, that was not a big deal. You were fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I as I talk to my niece, because she's heading up to Wyoming, and you know, my biggest advice to her was, don't come home every weekend. Enjoy school for what it is, and go away. And I wish I would have done more of that. I wish I would have stayed up and met new people and made stronger relationships. And thankfully I had the sorority to help me do that. But it took me a while to figure that out. And so my advice to her was, don't come home all the time. Just go away to school and be away, and let it be what it's going to be.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that one. Don't come home all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to thank both of you for your candid conversation. This was a great way for us to start off these first generation conversations. And I appreciate both of you taking your time and sharing your story. And this is the first of 5. So for the next 4 Thursdays at 11 a.m., we're going to be hosting these conversations. And I hope that the connections that you all made today it's just the start of your conversation, and that you two will be able to connect in the future as well. So thank you. Thank you to Carol Bush for giving us all of our technical expertise today.